India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has a hectic week ahead. He will have 40 hours for 23 engagements. All the high-stake meetings will be held across Japan. The Indian Prime Minister will be attending the Quad Summit on Tuesday, that is on the 24th of May, and separate bilateral meetings are also scheduled with the group leaders, that is US President Joe Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and the incoming Australian Prime Minister-elect Anthony Albanese.
On Monday morning, arrangements are in place to have these people sworn in as members of my team. To enable Penny and I to attend the important Quad Leaders meeting in Tokyo with President Biden, Prime Minister Kishida and Prime Minister Modi.
India's Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra held a press conference. He gave details about the aim of this crucial visit. During the Quad Summit, leaders will review the progress of Quad initiatives. They will identify new areas of cooperation. Japanese Prime Minister's India visit in March saw substantial outcomes. Indian Prime Minister will interact with the Indian diaspora. There will also be a special session on the sidelines of the World Health Organization's Assembly.
Apart from participating in the Quad Summit, Prime Minister would also hold bilateral meetings with the President of the US, Prime Minister of Japan, and with Prime Minister of Australia. The Prime Minister would also engage with the Japanese business community and the Indian diaspora during his stay in Tokyo. Let me first begin with the Quad Leaders Summit. As you all know, Quad cooperation is anchored in the shared values and commitment to the principles of democracy, international law, and rules-based international order, as also the vision for a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Since its first summit, Quad has been working to implement a positive and constructive agenda with a strong focus on enabling peace, prosperity and stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
Similar to the agenda for most foreign meetings taking place around the world, the Russia-Ukraine war is likely to dominate the talks. The bloc did meet on 2nd of March this year, just 6 days after Russia chose to invade Ukraine. But the war was at a very premature stage at that point. Months later, countries have shaped their stance and policies around it. The Quad group is expected to showcase a united front against Russia's brutalities. But this puts India in a tricky situation because, unlike India, the other three countries have sided with Ukraine. They have penalized Russia with sanctions and burned all bridges with the country. However, India has chosen a different path. It has chosen dialogue over criticism. So it will be interesting to see if the four countries will manage to come on the same page. Apart from this global issue, there is a regional crisis that is bothering the group, and that is China. The country is rapidly becoming more hostile across the Indo-Pacific. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been seen as a wake-up call for Taiwan, which China claims as its own territory. The United States, along with its allies in Asia, have stood against China's encroachment efforts. So a plan for Taiwan's military emergency is also on the cards. And for more on this, joining us from the ground is WION's managing editor, Palki Sharma. Welcome to the broadcast, and it's good to see you. All eyes will be on Prime Minister Modi, as he is expected to join hands with other members to strengthen the economic and also energy cooperation in order to contain the global fallout from Russian invasion of Ukraine. Palki, how is that likely to play out?
It'll be interesting to see how India balances its convergences and divergences, as they say in diplomacy. There's a lot that that goes for the Quad grouping. Like you said, energy partnership, economic partnership. But for many years, Eric, it was said that the Quad has an identity crisis. Is it the Asian NATO? Is it the Asian Red Cross? Or is it something in between? And has Quad been able to achieve any of its security goals? While a lot of water has passed under the bridge, and in the last 2 years especially, a lot of progress has been made, with this being the 4th meeting, 2 virtual meetings, and this is the 2nd in-person meeting. We had one last year in September in Washington, D.C. and now in Tokyo. So there is definitely intent, but they do not even spell out the clear security concerns, or they haven't done so yet. How will it play out this time? It remains to be seen. We understand that they are going to announce some sort of a framework where they have satellite tracking of illegal fishing in the waters in this region, and that is a direct attempt to take on China, because China is believed to be the biggest perpetrator of illegal fishing, which has threatened many traditional livelihoods and economies in the region. So that will be a message to China, certainly. Japan remains very clear on the threat posed by China to its territorial integrity. The US is very, very clear about this. The Australian government has been raising concerns about China's new deal with the Solomon Islands, and India, of course, is still locked in a border standoff with China. So all 4 countries understand and agree that this is a threat that needs to be addressed. But will they spell it out, and will they do something about it is the big question. Ukraine will certainly feature in the conversation, and that is where India will have to do a balancing act to try and ensure that the other countries do not hijack sort of the Quad agenda this time. And I think there is now a clear understanding among India's strategic partners that India is not going to join the sanctions regime against Russia.
Let's talk more about the Indo-Pacific now. When it comes to dealing with China, what is the Quad likely to do to strengthen the maritime and also energy security architecture, especially when it comes to global supply chains?
Well, they will have to build alternatives. And while there are many frameworks and many bureaucratic engagements that do take place, I think a stronger, clearer message needs to be sent out that this, all the leaders, whenever they've met, they've insisted that this is not an anti-China grouping, and that's how China sees it. So when they talk about vaccine diplomacy, when they talk about strengthening supply chains, the only way to do it is to strengthen alternatives, to ensure that these smaller countries that fall into the Chinese debt trap do not do so. So what are the alternatives that they have? Look at the situation in Sri Lanka. I'm sure that will come up in the discussions. The security situation in Afghanistan, the post-coup situation in Myanmar. So these are all security challenges in the region. North Korea's nuclear ambitions. How can the Quad countries come together and ensure that they provide alternatives to all these countries to steer out of China's sphere of influence, so to speak?
Live from Tokyo, Japan. We'll have to leave it there. WION Managing Editor Palki Sharma. Thank you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.